Good evening. This is Paranormal Science Lab Live. I'm Lisa.
I'm John.
And we're hoping everyone is having a wonderful weekend here in the U.S. It's Memorial Weekend.
I don't really care much.
You don't care about my weekend?
I care about your weekend.
Oh, you do? Thank you.
Yeah. Most everybody else is probably drunk, right?
Probably. You know, our viewers probably are. They're inebriated.
I'm not saying it on the chat room yet, so there could be some alcoholic discussion here shortly.
Yeah, well, that might make it a little more fun.
See if Doris is drinking today.
Uh-oh. This is a little early for her. She's going to kill you, by the way.
I don't care.
We are very pleased today to have as our guest Fintan Cullen with the TV show Ultimate Haunted Ireland. Fintan, how are you doing?
I'm great, guys. It's a pleasure to be on your program. Thanks for having me.
And we really appreciate you staying up late to do this because you're 6 hours ahead of us. So 1 in the morning.
It's actually only 12 where I am, so I would be used to being up late.
Yeah.
This is nothing.
Well, yeah. So just a regular evening, then, huh?
Something like that.
I think we should have packed up and done the show from prior.
Well, I think we need to plan that in the future.
Yeah, definitely.
And see if you decide.
No, but you're not going.
Off-stage comment to the text.
Yeah, to the son of Lisa.
Lisa, I can hear you quite well.
What's that?
I can hear you, Lisa, quite well. Just I can hear you very well. Just John's a bit echoing, so I'm just finding it difficult to.
Well, I'm kind of loud.
Fire ahead, guys. Oh, I can hear you now, John.
Yeah.
Just speak up and enunciate.
I don't enunciate. I'm a redneck.
You guys are funny.
Speak Arkansas?
I speak Arkansas. No, I love all of our Arkansas people.
So I put you there. Then, well, we'll get serious here in a second. Sorry about that. I was going to do a nice salute to all the veterans out there. We do appreciate your service.
You're welcome.
And I had to cut off, including John. Are you sure you haven't been dipping so far?
I'm telling you what's in my glass. It's Memorial Day week. It's okay.
Okay. For everyone on this side of the pond, tell us a little bit about the TV show.
Oh, okay. As I suppose the simplest way to describe where the TV show and how it came about is because Ireland is a very mystical place. For those that live here, I think don't really appreciate that. But from those overseas that come here, really like the whole ethos of the country, its folklore, its history, and they find it quite overwhelming in a lot of cases, and it hasn't been taken to the next level. And paranormal shows are really, really good, but I think what makes Ireland so different is there's so much history here in all facets of paranormal activity. You know, everything from demons to ghosts to poltergeists to fairies to witches to the whole 9 yards. We have it here, and it's in abundance. And strangely enough, Irish people don't really talk about it that often. You get Shanakees, you know, who are old folklore tellers, who will spin these stories for a pint in pub to tourists, and it's a big thing over here. It's a big tourist attraction to listen to a Shanakee or anybody that's around the country that will actually talk to people about historically about myths and banshees and stuff like that. But you know, out of Ireland right now, what we've done is documented before, and it wouldn't be your typical Charleville Castle or Leap Castle that you guys would know in America. While we do intend to do a significant amount of those type shows, We also intend to touch and give the viewers place and circumstances that they've never come across. Quite
Awesome.
unique.
Sorry.
I'm on it.
Hi, Molly. Say hi to everyone.
My arm can.
No,
No, but they can hear
you
you.
can be, you can only push on it.
We're having things go on here at the John Weiss
It's kind of
house.
a wild day at the John Weiss house today. People were seeing actually human.
Yeah, that's the difference, is that the people we're seeing today are actually living.
They're solids.
We're not sure how to react. Ben, give us an example of one of the stories that you've been covering that most people wouldn't know about.
Okay. Ireland has, well, what's the best way to put it? Ireland is obviously quite old in relation to America and Europe, and we've got, planes that have a spiritual meaning for different reasons. We've got things you probably know over there called ley lines, which lead from different parts of the country to different parts of the country, and they cross over, and they're the most spiritual or haunted places that you can come across, and they all sort of lead to Tara, which is a very, very mystical place. It's the hill of Tara, and they all sort of lead from different parts of the country. But there's a pub that we visited recently called the Fisherman's Inn. It's a thatched cottage pub, and that place was truly amazing, because initially when we went there to do some initial research, I lost all track of my memory, who the people that were there with me, almost what purpose I was actually there for. And then when it came to actually shooting the teaser program, when we had the full entire crew there, about an hour into, before we had any of the spiritual mediums or demonologists or whoever there, people were actually forgetting what they were there for.
Oh, wow.
Now, this is something I haven't encountered before, but it's such an unusual place. It sort of makes you feel like you're outside the realm of everything, and what's going on is just among those people that are there. It's almost like you're sequestered into a different time zone, and like you're going back 600 years with the pub, and the pub is filled of artifacts. There's over 3,000 artifacts in the pub, and when you come in, it's almost like the eyes of the past are watching you. It's quite an unusual feeling, because I've been involved in the paranormal for like 20 years. That type of feeling come over me in any one particular place. Excuse me, but there is very, very peculiar, extremely peculiar. It's go ahead, Lisa.
Oh, I said, did you feel like it's more from all the artifacts that are there, or more from the energy say, connected to the ley lines, or?
Well, it's probably a combination of the whole lot, but they do say that old items and artifacts do hold energy, both good and positive, and it's very hard to key into any of those things. Of course, it depends on the person and what their intent is. Everything with paranormal activity, as far as I'm concerned, is what is your intent when you go in to do an investigation. What's your intent? And for many people, it's different. With me and with the show, it's very, very simple. Our intent is to try and find out for sure, is there life after death? That's the question that we pose, and it's a lot different than most quests, most shows, most groups. When they go into somewhere, they just want to find out, is there activity in the place? But the real goal, I suppose, in anybody's mind, when you undress it all and strip it back off, is there life after death?
Well, I agree with you, and I like that approach. In fact, John and I were kind of having a similar conversation before the show, that how your thoughts and your intent affect the experiences you have, particularly with the paranormal, and I agree with you wholeheartedly there. Was it almost how you described the experience, was it almost like an enchantment?
Absolutely, because when you're sitting there talking to somebody, and then we went outside for a bit of a break, which we didn't get much of, I can assure you, when we got into it. But when we're sitting outside, I was sitting with the director, and we had completely forgotten who was with us. We couldn't name any of the crew. we had to go back in and look at them, and then try and remember who they were. I mean, how bizarre is that?
Very, very bizarre. Is there anything, that you can point to as far as, geology or anything in the area that would affect your comprehension or memory, etc.?
A good question. I think really it's because there's so much artifacts in the place that your mind is sort of racing ahead, and it's sort of really confused about what you're seeing and what's going on. And you can really feel the atmosphere that you could feel in this place it's almost like you're looking into another world. I mean that is the only way I can describe it. As to one particular cause, truthfully, I couldn't put my finger on it. But what I can tell you is the place is absolutely amazing. It's just like time stands still. I mean, at this particular, without going into it too much, at this particular place, there was regular hangings at the crossroads. And what they would do is, for the slightest thing back then, you'd be hung at the crossroads, and the crossroads was a public event. So people would come out to the pub to drink, to have food, and then to watch people being hung. And there'd be maybe 1,000 people a year would be hung. And, the roadway that leads up to this particular place, you weren't allowed to drive up, you weren't allowed to walk up, you had to come along like the coastline, not the coastline, up any locks and rivers that they had there to get around, because the land belonged to some very wealthy local farmers, and they wouldn't allow you to come up there. So usually when people were coming up, they knew what they were coming up for, and the people that were hung there were brought into the back of the pub, and they were left there to be collected by any loved ones, if they had loved ones, or if they had some kind of name locally, and if they didn't, they were just thrown in the ditch.
Did you notice? Did you notice that it happened to everyone? The time loss, or the loss of who they were talking to?
Yeah, not at the same time. It did happen. Yeah, it happened to everybody, but not at the same time. We had a historian with us for to be factually correct on what we were saying, and she's very adverse to giving talks and speeches, and she's really, really well known here and around Europe. Her name's Caroline Gallagher, and she had to come out of the room because she couldn't even function. She couldn't even get her thoughts together, even though she had stuff on paper and notes. She couldn't, and she said, she couldn't understand, the physicality and the logic of it all. How could that actually happen? So we knew when somebody, of that nature is, saying stuff like that, she wasn't part of our team. She was there as an independent advisor and onlooker, and she felt the same way. So to answer your question, during the course of the 36 hours that we were there, yes, everybody felt that, but at different times.
I was just curious if it had something to do with past lives, maybe. There's a lot of history in that area, so, there's probably a lot of people that have connection to the area. Just a thought came in my head.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's been thousands of people that have been, well, for the want of a better word, murdered or slaughtered in that area. Also, in Ireland years ago, it wasn't uncommon for poor men, paupers, if you like, to try and get into relationships with wealthy women, and the wealthy women really encouraged that, but the fathers didn't, and your head to be cut off for the slightest thing. I mean, literally. But I think all of that combined together gives you the type of activity that you can get going on in places like that, whether it be poltergeist, whether it be apparitions, whether it be of a demon nature, or whether it can even be of spells that have been put on people there from the past, because wood, as we all know, is a great conductor. And while the place has got an awful lot of wood, it just creates that whole energy of holding on to the field of energy that you're feeling. I mean, people often get spooked in the place, as in they've seen someone go into the toilet and they'd be waiting outside if there's a single toilet waiting for them to come out, and there'd be nobody in there at all. They'd be talking to somebody in the bar for a couple of minutes, and that person then is no longer there. There's a lot of druid activity, and I wouldn't know a lot about druids, but there's a lot of druid activity in the area, and this particular pub has a 12th century druid altar in the games room, and I've never heard that. I'm sure there are places around the world that have that, but I can't imagine there's too many communal public houses that have that. So that in itself is quite bizarre.
No, I'm good. All right.
I'm ready to go check it out.
We'll come visit.
Well, and I was sitting here thinking that all of those centuries of connection, not only with just the tragic deaths and emotions, but magic and witchcraft, Druidism, there's such a longer history, more intense history there than in the States. I mean, we have some, and we have a few big examples like the Salem witch trials, etc.
We have, Native American history, and so there's a lot of magic that the Native Americans did a lot of stuff like that. Sorry, I cut you off.
Oh no, you're fine. But as far as that intense,
we don't have the thousands of years of this, all that went on, in the European countries. I'm moving.
And to be perfectly honest with you, there's a huge fascination in the States with the history of witchcraft and magic in Europe and Ireland and the Isles. Can you give us an example,
Sure. I could talk to you about fairies, because I used to never believe in fairies, right? I never believed in fairies. And going through paranormal travels and meeting different people, they rarely talk about fairies here in Ireland at all. But farmers over here, there's apparently fairies can actually turn themselves into hares as distinct from rabbits. And that's how they show themselves. And there's certain parts, around Newgrange over here in Ireland, and Meath and Louth. There's certain places over here where farmers won't allow people in the field, and it's not because they don't want people to take shortcuts. It's because they don't want to upset fairy rings and fairy circles, because it's very bad luck to do anything untoward onto a fairy circle, fairy mound, fairy ring, or fairy tree. It brings you really, really bad luck. And we had a guy he was very well known over here. He's a very, very good businessman. He moved this rock in his hometown that he lived in called Cavan, and this made on TV. He was told by this local farmer that he will never, ever, ever have any luck, and it'll bestow nothing but bad luck on him. And several years later, he lost absolutely everything, was involved in the banking scandal here in Ireland, and is left with absolutely nothing. Now, if you were to Google something on the internet in relation to fairies, I can't remember the gentleman's name. Maybe I could get it for you another time. There's very few people that will talk openly about fairies here in Ireland, but there is a gentleman, his name won't come to me now, where there's going to be a road built, a big road built through this area that had a fairy tree, and it was on NBC and ABC and all the American networks. They came over to film it. He actually got an injunction to stop the entire government from doing anything with the roads and stuff. So it's really, really strange, really, really bizarre, but that's actually what happens.
Wow, that certainly would not happen in the States.
Now, we don't even care about cemeteries here.
No, yeah.
If it has any sort of spiritual belief to it,
now it gets in the way of progress. Yeah, that's amazing.
Well, they say here, they see that the fairies live underground, and fairies live at the bottom of people's gardens. And although people technically have not seen it, anything that you do with surrounding a fairy tree or a fairy area, anything that you do will have repercussions on it. Another thing that the farmers do, and they believe this on fairies as well, is it's called turning the sod. Mm-hmm. And over here, basically, if a long time ago, in the 17th and 18th century, when people had children illegitimately and they didn't tell anybody, they would go out and basically stay in a farmer's field at the last minute to have the child, and they'd bury the child face down in a field. They'd just cut up a sod and put the sod over the child. And as the folklore and history goes, farmers didn't want anybody on their land in case they would stand on this sod, and this sod would then allow the people to know that a child was left there and their soul was gone to the fairies. And you're supposed to turn your clothes inside out if you're walking in a field and you step on one of those sods, or you're going to have bad luck for the rest of your life. And they still do this to this day. Farmers will still do this to this very day.
How do you really identify a fairy tree?
A fairy tree?
Uh-huh.
Well, no, the fairy trees aren't much different than any other tree. Usually they've got no leaves. They're in a pretty unusual shape. Not unlike a bonsai tree. Not unlike that. They usually have no grass seems to grow around it. It seems to be all bare underneath where the branches are bending down. So it's sort of drooping. It's a tree that droops down, if you like, and nothing grows underneath it. And there's usually like rocks around it, at least halfway around rocks. And they call that a fairy fort, and it's usually accompanied by a fairy tree. But over here, people that live in the country and have listened to these stories for years just wouldn't dare. For instance, a certain time of the year in certain areas where all the hares get together and they literally stand in a circle, and it's very bad luck to see that. You're not supposed to look at that. And you can hear them not talk, as in make the noise that a hare makes to each other, but you are not supposed to look over the fence. You're not supposed to go and seek them. And nothing apparently after that happens, you get almost like traditional music, very, very old traditional music that you hear in the background, and that's supposed to be the fairies doing their like annual thing. So it's really, really big thing over here, but it's not looked into near as much as general paranormal stuff is here at the moment, because paranormal activity in relation to ghosts being seen and demons being seen and found in places has really increased here in Ireland over the last couple of years. A lot more. There was a show years ago in the UK, and they used to come over here, and they got a lot of activity, nothing like there is now. We're not a huge country. We've got lots of paranormal groups, but they all look for different things. But unfortunately, I find, unlike anywhere else, they don't work together, they don't network together, they don't do any of that. So we set out with the focus for our show, Ultimate Haunted Ireland, was to show the different aspects of paranormal activity in castles, on boats, on roads, in cemeteries, a whole gamut of different things that you wouldn't expect to see on a TV show. And I think that's what's going to make it so different.
But it definitely sounds fascinating.
Yeah, I'm interested. I'd like to see it.
Will there be an opportunity for us to see it over here?
Absolutely. In a couple of weeks' time, we're going to have the teaser, which will be released to the media. And you guys, of course, are very good friends now at this stage. And we'd love you guys to see that, and I will certainly keep you informed with that, because it is really different. It's very, very different. It's like, not blowing our trumpets, right, but I've spent years trying to get people that I could work with that could produce a show that it's not all about flashing lights and fabulous graphics, but that's a combination of something interesting to sequentially open a show and leave you with your mouth open and looking for more. And just the teaser alone for the show that's eventually going to be the first show has completely it's outdone itself tenfold for me, you know. And we've got a very skillful director who believes in filming things as they are. He doesn't make any impressions of people to go in and act a certain way or any of that nature. He's guts on the outside guy. He's fantastic with his, you know, for people that can relate to. He wants it from the public's perspective. He wants it varied. He wants it as much as possible for it to be unique. We film in 3 different speeds. And no, I'm not a technical person, so I can't remember the name of the 2 main cameras. We had several cameras, obviously, but the 2 main cameras I can't remember the name of. But when we were shooting at the end of last year, they were very, very new and the latest on the market. And we were shooting in 3 different speeds. And we seem to have discovered that if you're shooting slightly slower, only slightly slower, you will capture stuff that other cameras have never captured before. So I think we've discovered something quite unique to the paranormal world.
That's interesting, because we actually use high-speed cameras too in our investigations, and we've had luck capturing things at high speed that a camera right next to it and in real time misses. So,
wow.
But then I can see that just based on a lot of investigation, I think that there are things that they do operate at different frequencies.
Right, I was just going to say, yeah.
And so I can see that there would be things that are moving faster than we normally see, and I can see that there would be things that perhaps are slowed down that we might not notice. So that's very interesting.
You know, everything, we in the paranormal field understand that everything is energy. We know that. This is scientifically proven. I mean, it's not a fact made up. Okay, so knowing that everything is energy can move at different speeds, and I think that the different speed of cameras helps us catch things that are at that other speed than what we normally see with the naked eye. And that's what a camera that's moving at normal speed, that's what we see with the naked eye. I mean, basically. So, I mean, I think it's great, yeah.
And I think it's great. This is the first time I've seen a show, actually.
Right.
You know, I mean, I know we do it, and I know there's a handful of investigators in the U.S. that work with different speed cameras, but nothing on TV. I think that's awesome. And we'll be thrilled to help spread the word, do whatever we can for you. And
you know, if you just need a couple of Americans to come over there to Ireland and help a brother out. I mean,
yeah, we're here.
Oh, absolutely. Make no mistake, you would be very, very welcome to come over for the shooting of one of the shows. Absolutely, because I think you know when tourists come to Ireland, or anybody with the paranormal, or just people in general visiting Ireland, they don't really get to see the real Ireland. They get to see, you're taken on a bus or you're told to go to this town, and you're flogged a whole load of rubbish stuff. I'm just being honest with you. You know, you're sold this and you're sold that and you're told this and you're told that, but it's different when you're brought to a specific place. You're not told anything. You do a show or you do a prep for a show, and just allow you to soak up the atmosphere without being told a single thing. And I think that's what we try and do with our footage. Nobody knows about anything. The paranormal investigators that we had on the show were basically on lockdown. We met them 50 miles away from the destination. We took their mobile phones off them. We took any communication things that they had off them. So they had no clue where they were going. They hadn't a clue what to expect. So they were coming into a place that nobody knew of. Sorry?
No, it sounds like fun.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, they had no clue where they were going. And it's like, so when they all got there, and we made sure, in case they knew each other, we got them there 3/4 of an hour to an hour after the others got there. And the staff weren't allowed to talk to anything, they weren't to be told anything. The first thing they got when they got there was basically something to eat and something to drink. And then we let them do their walkthroughs, their observation. Then we brought in different groups together. So we'd bring in single people, then we'd bring in the whole lot in a group. And then we'd film, almost like back film, the interpretations of the spiritual mediums that were there when they thought they weren't on camera. Because one of the things we did, we want to get real, let's get it as it is, as they feel it. But let's not tell them we're filming them at that point. Now, obviously, we did tell them afterwards, but I think it's very different from filming, because it's quite obvious it's not contrived, because there are shows that are contrived. Let's all be brutally honest and put our cards on the table. There's one of the things I despise about any type of show, paranormal or otherwise. It's a contrived show. Your public, if they want something contrived or if they want something that's not true, can just flick on any channel and see it. But I think investigators owe it to people who either believe or disbelieve. They need to at least show them everything raw.
Oh, I agree. I mean, and I think a lot of shows are afraid to do that because they're afraid it won't be dramatic enough or that the audience will lose interest. But in the end, the audience doesn't have faith in the shows that look contrived.
Yeah, it's true.
That's right, and a lot of the things are centered in most shows around gadgets. Okay, this is picking up this and this is picking up that. And with everything, it's visual and it's audio. So you're looking at 4 different lots of people in 4 different areas, and they're all getting video, and they're all getting audio, which is, to get that out of a group of people is extremely bizarre. We took one regular in who lives just up the road from the pub, and we just sat him in the room and we just said, like, we're going to have some people going around and we're doing sound and we're doing this. And he was sitting in the pub, a part of the pub he'd never been in before. And off camera, he was speaking to one of the girls who was a runner. And the stuff that he was saying on camera, his friends were watching him behind in the other room because we brought them in. So we had actually their reaction watching him saying stuff that he would never say to his friends, because his friends weren't from the area, and yet they would go there and drink with him. And they were always fascinated as to why he wanted to go there and nowhere else. And he said, both on camera and off camera, that he felt compelled to be there to understand why, that he just did not want to be anywhere else. And he's one of the people who also mentioned about forgetting things and forgetting people's names that he had in there. And, so like you're getting the guts of what's going on in the area. And then we had local people before we went and do the show ask any questions that they wanted to ask and tell us anything that we wanted to tell. And people really came out of their shells for one reason and one reason only, I believe. It's because they knew that we knew there was something there. It wasn't just talking about a pub because the pub needed a publicity, or it's a spin-off, or people assure you. Publicans in this country make enough money. They don't even need to make them any more money. I can assure you of that. But I can assure you of that. And if that's what they thought we were going there, that was not going to happen. But the story has just gathered so much momentum over here before anything has happened. It's like in the States and Europe, because we're not. We have entered into a deal with somebody, but the contracts aren't signed for the next couple of weeks. I would gladly to come back and tell you who they are. But they've looked at the teaser for the program, the content, how much effort has been put into it, the history and the folklore that's combined with it, with ordinary people who are on doing what they do, being good at what they do. not being on TV as somebody quite obviously who wants to make a name for themselves. These are Irish people, Irish spiritual mediums. I present the show. We keep it very level-headed, very on track. People say what they want to say. You might get a little swear here and there, but look, that's life. So we're not going to edit that. We're not going to, be glossy for it. No, that's what happens. So we want to show what happens. And that's one of the reasons we've found such a really big interest from both the States, Canada, Australia, and even now in some places in Europe, although we haven't been sort of pandering to that area for a while. It's really Americans and Canadians that we wanted to get to.
Well, and I can honestly say I think you can definitely find a big audience over here because so many are fascinated with Ireland and the history and folklore, including us. I think John's renewing his passport as we speak.
Yeah, I'm getting that on mine.
Well, there's plenty of room for you guys over here. There's plenty of room for all you guys. You'll be made more than welcome.
Probably he didn't realize how big I am.
We love you, John.
I'm a little fella.
We'll have to roll him up in a ball and stuff him in a suitcase.
I want to see you roll me up in a ball and stuff. That's a big suitcase.
Okay, big duffel bag. Just don't move. Better put you through the answer machine. No, this is very exciting. It really is. I'm curious to touch on some of the other subjects that you get to talk about and show that we really don't get the opportunity over here. Things like banshees and so forth. Are those kind of things that you're going to be covering as well?
Oh, absolutely. By the way, do you guys know what a banshee actually is? I mean, when I say, do you know what it is, I mean, do you know what it's supposed to be a sign of?
Well, I've heard it, but refresh my memory because I'm not pulling it out right now. So.
Well, it's kind of death, impending death.
It is, but a thing that a lot of people don't know is that it follows families, usually families with Mac and O in the name. Now, it can follow other families too, but O's and Macs and these type of names, families are heavily followed by the banshee, which in essence is an old woman, a very, very old woman with very, very long hair, and she combs her hair while she's screaming and screeching. And they say, and now I've met one or two people who are very reputable who have encountered this, that if they throw the comb at you, you yourself are going to die. If they don't, somebody close to you or a relative close to you is going to die. But banshees are probably the most feared things over here. The only way I can describe a whale, they call it a whale from a banshee, is like if you got a big piece of iron and stuck it in the fire and left it there for 24 hours on this big huge fire and it was red hot and you took it out and you stuck it in a cat's behind. That's the type of sound.
Okay, well that's definitely. Oh wow. I wasn't expecting that.
That's trying to make me squall. I mean,
Yeah, it's sometimes they're afflicted by it. It's horrific, absolutely horrific, because you can never, ever fully explain. There's been loads of recordings of this, but it's like they come to you at night time. They don't come during the day. They come at night time. They usually sit outside your window, and when people hear them, now in cities now and everything, I don't just mean in the country, in cities, they sit outside your window, and you're not supposed to look at them. You're not supposed to do nothing, but apparently you're frozen stiff, and you can't do a single thing. But on another note, we were at a family recently that had 10 children, and they were very well off, but the children and the house and family were so distracted by what was taking place that all the children stayed in one room with the mother and father. They all stayed in one room and wouldn't leave to go to any other part of the house. So they called somebody, I believe you got coming up in a couple of weeks' time, and they called Irish Teenage Demon Fighter in. He went in. He's part of the Ultimate Haunted Ireland team. He went into the house, and straight away he went straight. Now there's probably about, no joke, 50 rooms in this house, and he went straight away to where the root of the problem is. And the mother was there, the father was there, all the children were there except the two oldest daughters, and they were out. And I knew there was something not quite right about the place, but like Reese was really, really looking into it very, very well and very, very carefully, and he determined that in one of the rooms that they were in, somebody had performed or done something there before, something had come in there and it won't go. So he did a cleansing. He's a Buddhist monk, and he hasn't taken his final vows yet, but he's going back to India shortly. He's only 19. They call from all over the place. He does stuff on Skype all over the world to tell people he is Irish. He went there and rid in less than 24 hours the house of what was going on, and what he determined was that the older girl, when she came in from where she was, he challenged her and said to her, "What did you do in this house?" And she looked at him and looked at her father and looked at the rest of the kids, and she said, "Well, I didn't do anything." He said, "What did you allow go on here?" And eventually, under much duress, she came out and said that people had placed a Ouija board in there when the mother and father were away on holidays and her friends from school came in. And that was 5 years ago, and she's 19 now. So that's when she was only 14. And what she did at that time had the children in that house terrified, absolutely everywhere they went. They were being actually dragged out of the bed by their feet. The children were. The father had only seen it in the last 6 months, and he was aware of what was going on. But we had a real serious conversation with this young girl, a very frank, open and honest discussion with them all. And like Reese was so good, he had asked them all to go to their room, spend half an hour in the room on their own, which they did. They come back down again, and they were all very, very happy to be there. That was a while ago. The family have said they still have had nothing since that. We had told the girl, who was the oldest daughter, that if she even thinks about doing that again, she's putting all her family and brothers and sisters in danger. And if she has anyone associated with her that she had there while she did that before, to tell us now. So it took an hour for us to force her, that's what we did do, into telling us who she had there, so our parents could make sure that they were never going to be in the house again. And that's just, a flip side of the other stuff we were talking about.
Mm-hmm. Oh, exactly. Were you able to determine exactly what you come through?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It was a demon, by the way, a low-level demon. I don't know much about demons, but I can assure you this gentleman does. It was a low-level demon, and what was actually keeping him there was, although the children were afraid, they were actually almost inviting it to hang around. So what they were doing was, they would say, "I wonder is it going to come out tonight? I wonder is it going to do this? I wonder is that going to happen?" So their fear and everything obviously kept it there. So we had to try and basically tell them, and it's very difficult to tell young children, but we had to actually tell them the fact that you want to know why it's here and the fact that you want to see it will make it stay here. And it's really, really dangerous, and you must understand that it's really, really dangerous. And actually, like for the daughter, when this had actually happened, she was only 14. So I suppose she was naive and stupid enough then, but it was a different kettle of fish this time, because the responsibility, and rightly so, lay on her shoulders. And we made sure that our family and her parents knew, and it wasn't to have her get into any trouble, it's to make sure that they could keep an eye and understand, because these things, for anybody listening, no matter where you are in the world and you're listening to this, one of the most dreadful things you could ever do is to get involved with the Ouija board. Don't let anybody ever tell you it's not the board that does the trouble, it's the intent of the people that are in the room.
Yes.
That's fact.
And yeah, we we agree with you there wholeheartedly that it's not so much the board, it is the people and their intents. You said earlier that there seems to be a big increase in cases involving demons and so forth. And actually, we've kind of seen that in the States, or at least a lot more purported demonology cases in the last 2 or 3 years. Does it appear that some of what you're seeing, is it fairly legitimate, or part of this sensationalized, people almost looking for the demonic?
Well, here, the word demonic, was rarely ever mentioned here in Ireland. It's rarely mentioned, but in the last couple of years, it's been bandied about quite a bit. Now, I myself have my own personal beliefs, which I'm not trying to force onto anybody else, but there are cases on TV, both here in Ireland and in the States, and I'm sure all over the world, where you can actually look at somebody that they're after interviewing, or that has made a video prior to doing something outrageous where it involves killing people. Mm-hmm. And you can actually see, unless you're totally blind, you can actually see how twisted and tormented and demented that person is in their mind through their eyes.
Oh, I agree. And I think it kind of goes back to intent.
I have my eyes.
Uh-oh. Maybe I should look at your eyes. But I do agree there. I mean, but there seems to have been a sudden escalation in the fascination and almost invitation by some.
Everybody wants to have a demon. Why?
It's not like you're going to put them on a leash and walk them down the street. You know, I mean,
why do people want demons?
And that's what seems to be happening more over here, and I just don't really understand that fascination and desire.
Yeah, well, you see, they don't know what they're messing with. You see, it's like TV has, I suppose television is responsible for a lot of the misconceptions that people have about different facets and aspects of the paranormal. They try and, mix mash a film. They have a film that's got something in it that's quite obviously people can understand, with something then that's slightly exaggerated. So what they're trying to put a twist on everything to make sure that everything is just watchable,
right,
and everything is actually okay when it's not okay. Producers and TV networks have an obligation to tell the truth, absolutely yes, but they don't have the right to exploit young people or people that can't comprehend what they're trying to do by saying, well, this is okay, as long as you don't do this or don't say that, things are going to be okay. Things are not okay. In the paranormal world, there's great stuff, there's great cries out from people from aliens. I certainly believe in people, from other dimensions and other places. I definitely believe in ghosts and spirits. I think they're very natural. I think they've been around us all our lives. We just have the technology to understand it a bit more now. But when it comes to demons, that's a different thing. Because they live on such negativity, and there's enough negativity all around the world as it is, and I'm going on record now by saying that any institutions like religious groups, any groups that occults, anything where they segregate themselves away from Joe Public, can't be doing anything that's good. Why would you hide away if you're doing something that's good? I mean everything from nuns, priests, the Vatican, any of these groups that make themselves elitist, if you like. What right do they have to bestow things on other people? And these are the very, very people that are involved in the sexual exploitation of children, adults. People forget that while there are so many people that are being abused that can hear and not hear, what about all the people who can't see and can't hear? They can't tell. I think people forget about that too, and I think that's a lot got to do with they say that if you're having sex with a person that's young and under 12 and under 13, they say in their sick minds that gives you energy and positivity and good blood flow and good It doesn't. It's arse. It doesn't. Who in their right minds wants to even think about bestowing anything of that nature on anybody, never mind children, on adults or anything? But this is the world we live in, and these are the people that I like to expose. And, I think that people in the paranormal field are in a position to do that with these type of things, because you come across it, but people are afraid. People are afraid to say something because they feel it's not politically correct. I don't care.
Well, and often these different issues do kind of cross or come together in the same people sometimes, but just almost the glorification of the evil side or the demons, I think, has been a bit irresponsible. And I think there's been certain shows that have basically highlighted it, and it almost looks like, well, every week we deal with a demon and it's all okay at the end of the hour. And I think people start thinking, oh, then everyone can just deal with this, and it becomes an adrenaline rush. And people forget that there are serious repercussions. And by portraying it like, oh, we deal with a demon this week and one next week, it's much different than how it's been portrayed in the past in situations. And I think it's wonderful that you are looking at all these different areas on the show. And certainly be happy to help promote, and be certainly interested in anything that we could do. Go ahead and give everyone web addresses, etc., where they can contact you or the show for more information.
Great. You basically the Facebook page, because we're leaving our web page till the very, very end until we go live on air. Our Facebook page is just simply Ultimate Haunted Ireland, and on there you will have some really, really interesting pictures of old Ireland, old art, old folklore, old Ireland with relatively modern Ireland of the last 100 years. It'll really stimulate your mind, the art that's featured on it, the little tips about what's coming up in the show, tips about really good places in Ireland that you should visit from a medieval point of view, a paranormal point of view. So it's Ultimate Haunted Ireland on Facebook, and over the space of the next few weeks we will have Twitter and actual interactive web page that you can join us on.
Well, wonderful, and I hope people do check out the page and keep tuned in and explore these mysteries with you in the future. So we are I'm excited. I'm glad you came on, and definitely want to have you back on again, especially as things get closer to being broadcast. And thank you very much for staying up late and talking to us. And
it was great having you, man. It's nice to meet you.
Thank you. And guys, I can assure you, when I said that invitation is open, I mean it is open. We will look after you when you come over. It's a pleasure being on your show. The best of luck with your future. Both you deserve it. You sound like really, really good people, and hopefully we can chat again soon.
Looking forward to it.
Looking forward to it. Thank you, definitely. Thank you, Ben, and have a nice evening. Get some rest.
Thank you.
Interesting.